Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and four-time author, Tony Walker.
Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary Tony Walker. And in case you missed last week's episode, we're now in part 2 of There Are No Stupid Questions. Some really good stuff. We're going to dive right back into it. In fact, on my right here is my favorite son-in-law, Mr. Trey Juergens. Good morning, Trey.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. And back again, Mr. Wes Walker, my favorite nephew. You doing all right?
Doing well, Tony. Good morning.
Here we are, and we've got more questions that come to us all the time. I mean, we are in the trenches. Personally, we're recording this show, let's see, on Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. I mean, I had 20 appointments yesterday. Heather in the bowling green office had 6. You had to see some people yesterday. Yep. Trey, Wes, actually a gentleman that could not get out of his home. You were kind enough to just go see him and talk to him. So, I mean, I don't know, combined well over 30 appointments. So a lot of people have to go out and get focus groups and find out what the general public is looking for. Folks, we're just meeting the saver head on. We know exactly what the saver's thinking, and we know that the saver many times is made to feel stupid by the financial world because they have legitimate questions to ask. Now, where did all this start? Just in case you're joining us, Mr. Terrell Owens. Terrell or Terrell?
Terrell Owens.
Gosh darn it. Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Owens had this quote basically after losing a fortune, and he was basically suggesting, watch out who you get advice from. I love that. He said, find somebody you feel that is experienced in that arena of advice, not in football, and don't take anything for granted. So we don't want to take anything for granted either, folks. And I think, Trey, you mentioned last week the idea of where did all this come from? Why are there so many industries out there that consumers don't understand and therefore don't know what questions to ask? And you read an article about that. Let's go over this again before we get into the show. This what is it called? The knowledge gap. So explain what this is.
So I used to work in the medical field in marketing. And as I started with you, you quickly educated me. I'm not getting into the financial world, I'm getting into the communications world. So in this consumer knowledge gap, primarily in medical, automotive, and financial, the gap between consumer and expert is so vast that there's so much room that the consumer may feel like any question they have is going to be a stupid question.
And then the experts, I guess sometimes, and I can understand this a little bit, the experts, and we find this, I've told you, and Wes, I've tried to train you in this, you're going to get a lot of the same questions over and over. But those people deserve answers, they deserve patience. You can't just get upset with them because you've heard the question 40 times. The knowledge gap exposes the fact that a lot of these same questions we get, a lot of people have the same questions. So that's another thing, folks. If you're sitting there meeting with somebody and they won't answer your questions, they seem put off, that you're even asking questions about your own money, that's a good time to get a second opinion, speaking of the medical field. Okay, so what we're going to do in the essence of time, we got some more questions to get into. Before we get into the questions, last week we covered what we call our onboarding process. Now, we're not going to go through all that, but what we're saying is, once you decide to move money over, folks, and there's a lot of people out there glad to take your money, they'll roll it over in a heartbeat, and there's a lot of money in this business, so don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that can help you with that. But how does this whole onboarding process work? And as we're going to talk about today, what happens after the sale? So let's go to the next question that is kind of piggybacked on this onboarding process. And we'll let you pick this one up, Trey, where we left off.
Yeah, so this question is, if I don't name a beneficiary, who gets my money when I die? And the unfortunate thing is, if you don't name a beneficiary, it will fall to your estate. That's when probate gets involved. So there's a judge deciding who gets your money versus very simply writing somebody's name there on the beneficiary designation. And we really encourage savers to name a beneficiary. We don't want this going before probate on who gets your life savings.
And it's not even just probate, Trey. That's a good point. But many of you out there, maybe some of you, have had second marriages. I studied years ago under Mr. Ed Slott, a well-known CPA, and I remember him telling the story of a husband and wife. They went through a divorce. He had to have his will changed. He changed everything to his new wife. Well, what somebody forgot to tell him is he never changed the beneficiary of a large pension that was named his ex-wife. He dies. The new wife is expecting to get all this money. She got some through the will, but since the IRA, the pension, the 401ks, they bypassed the will, guess who got all that money?
The ex-wife.
The ex-wife. So folks, you better make sure you know who these beneficiaries are, especially when you're rolling over your 401k. Make sure the advisor is careful to get the correct beneficiaries down. All right, next, can my spouse or children get access to my personal information without my permission? Again, Wes, we'll come back to you in a minute, but Trey, real quickly, you run into this a lot. What's the answer to that question?
The answer is no. You can designate them to be a trusted contact. We always name working with retirees trusted contacts. A trusted contact, someone will call if we can't get a hold of that person.
But we really can't disclose information.
We can't
right?
divulge any account information, client information. However, in a case that you want your wife, your husband, your children to be able to call us and get information, we need to have a durable power of attorney on file.
Okay, so that would allow them to get information. We've got some clients that have done that, consigned, but that's a durable power of attorney. You need to get that through an attorney. Next question, Mary Beth. All right, here we go. Let's turn this one over to Wes. Wes tends to work in our Charles Schwab department, handles a lot of the decisions on investing, doing a great job there. So Wes, if I invest money with an advisor, let's say even Tony Walker Financial, this is the kind of questions we get, because at first this doesn't make any sense, but let's see it hone on us. How long will it take to get all of my money back? What do you think they're asking here, Wes?
So what it sounds like, they're trying to figure out, if I put some money with you, how much access will I have to this money? What's the term before I can get the full amount back? All those kind of questions that come with liquidity in investments. And it can be different in the insurance world, like with annuities, you may have surrender charges, longer terms. In the securities world, like with stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, they're typically liquid, although sometimes you might invest money with a manager who has a lockup period, say a year or two before you can access the funds. So it can vary greatly depending on the products and the advisor that you're using.
And I think this also proves the point, Trey, that a lot of people, they've had this 401k, they've been saving all this money, and now all of a sudden, folks, and I remind you, the 401k was meant to be spent. And many of you don't even have a spending plan. You don't realize that you've got to get that money out. And I think what happens is they rush out. Maybe, I tell you the big culprit right now, and we like bonus annuities, we use those, but I'm seeing annuity peddlers roll all of the money over into these bonus annuities, and they're touting these bonuses. Well, the money literally is tied up other than the penalty-free withdrawals, and these people are wanting more money. You can't get it unless you're willing to take a big penalty, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So let's go to the next question. Yeah, okay. So one thing that's going to happen is we record this show on May 17th, 2022, with the market, both stocks and bonds, incidentally, going down as we speak. People are going to be looking to annuities. Now, why do people look to annuities when times get tough?
Well, they're worried about risk. So safer vehicles, annuities are able to protect your principal, your money, from loss.
That's right. And let's see, how do annuities protect it? So let me explain this. An annuity basically is issued by an insurance company. Although bonds are going down, this is going to sound weird, they're full of bonds, mortgages, different terms. But what the insurance company can do that we can't as advisors with individual bonds, they can put a wrapper around these bonds that protects those bonds, takes the maturity off the table so that what you get is an annuity that is not going to go down when these interest rates are going up, which is what's happening right now. Now, in lieu of that, you say, well, Tony, that sounds too good to be true. Well, in lieu of that, in order for them to put this wrapper around there and protect your accounts from interest rate risk, what is the one thing people forget about when they buy an annuity? What can happen, and how can the insurance company get some of their money back?
If you need access to that, like Wes just alluded to with liquidity, if you go and yank too much money out within a surrender period, they're going to charge you with a surrender penalty.
That's right. So folks, this is why, if we can put this up full screen, Aaron, this is why I created something called the split IRA concept. And as Shannon Ross likes to say in our Bowling Green office, this is a humdinger.
That's a humdinger.
Because what it allows you to do is you have access to your money through the Charles Schwab platform, and then protection and that beloved mailbox money on the back end with our annuities. So if you don't have something like this, I would encourage you to go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, Click on the Let's Get Started. Let's take a look at your 401k, your IRAs, all of your situation. Let's get a game plan around that and see if we can help. And it can all start with our free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. So log on now, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or give us a call at the toll-free number on your screen. All right, gentlemen, we've got some more time left, more questions coming your way. One of the big questions we're going to talk about in a minute, we're going to dive into this whole thing of annuities. One of the biggest misconceptions is a question we get all the time. We're going to cover in much detail. In the meantime, let's take a quick station break. We'll be right back.
What happens to our plan if the stock market crashes?
Oh, don't worry if the stock market goes down. It always comes back up.
Okay, so what if we want to get our money out of this investment? Is there a cost, a fee?
Oh, the fees? No, they're very competitive. Don't worry about the fees.
So if I have to take money out of my 401k, are you going to help me with the taxes?
What do I look like? An accountant?
Don't leave your retirement to chance. Get a second opinion from TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. I am fiduciary Tony Walker, along with my favorite son-in-law, Mr. Trey Juergens, fellow fiduciary. Hello again, Trey.
Happy to be here.
And my other fiduciary here, my favorite nephew, Wes Walker. How's it going, Wes?
Good, Tony?
Good, good. And I am your favorite uncle now, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm sorry, Cleet, if you're watching.
Oh, yeah, Cleet.
The other.
Oh, I love that name. I don't know if I had an uncle named Cleet. I may have to go with that. That's pretty cool. You know Uncle Eddie, don't you? My Uncle Eddie.
Of course.
He's got to be my favorite uncle. In fact, if you're watching Uncle Eddie, Eddie's funny. He loves to sleep in the morning, but he sets his alarm on Saturday morning so he can catch it on LEX. Apparently he goes back to sleep. I said, well, at least we're not putting you to sleep. So, Uncle Eddie, by the way, land of do as you please. That was Troy, Kentucky, growing up, some wonderful times anyway. I don't know how I got off on that, I guess talking about uncles. All right, so we're into this topic. There are no stupid questions, all right? Let's go to the next question because, as you know, if you watch this show, annuities are near and dear to my heart. I love annuities, especially fixed annuities, fixed indexed, fixed interest. And savers should really consider these products if they don't have annuities. But this one, Trey, comes up all the time. What is the origin of this? Because this is a big misconception. But why is it that people always ask or assume that when I die, the annuity is just gone?
Right. A lot of folks with this question, what happens to my annuity when I die? It kind of, or the origin of that is the old pensions. The old pension plan, if you elect for a life-only pension, you're going to get that as long as you live.
And a pension's an annuity, right?
That's correct, yeah. So if you receive that, as long as you live, you die, whatever that pension fund was worth, no matter what, that stays at the pension fund. With these annuity contracts, the old types of annuities work the very same way. If you died on a life-only annuity option, that money stayed with the insurance company. They were taking that risk with actuarial math, thinking they knew when you were going to die, pay you this amount of money every month or year until you die. But these newer products, we're using income riders, we're using flexibility with our split IRA. So when you die, that annuity, depending on how you have it, if you're married, if it has a spousal continuation, that contract value goes to your named beneficiaries.
Yeah, I like to call them modern day annuities because the modern day, like everything has changed, modern day annuities allow the saver to have much more flexibility, and assuming the saver hasn't drawn all their money out, when they die, that goes to the heirs. Oh, this comes up a lot, and I know you're catching wind of this more and more, Wes. Wes also is doing a great job. You kind of help with the allocations of all of our indexed annuities. But this comes up a lot. Well, yeah, but what if let's say they have a 10-year surrender term on their annuity. So what that means, folks, is if you buy an annuity with a 10-year surrender term and you want to cash out in the 5th or 6th year, let's say, there's going to be some huge penalties. So they'll look at that and they go, well, how much will the penalty be when I die for my family? What's the answer, Wes?
0.
That's right. So the penalties are waived at death. So folks, the key is with all these annuities, number one, you got to work with somebody who knows what they're doing with these products. Secondly, make sure you have a written game plan to accompany the annuity. And heaven forbid, the key is don't put all of your money in one annuity, which we see that mistake time and time again, but you got to really be careful. Here's what I would suggest on the whole annuity thing. Why don't you go right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. What you're going to do there is go to the download section. When you find that, there's all kinds of great stuff, free downloads, but one of those is called Annuities Made Easy. Another great download is Mailbox Money Made Easy. So download those. Let us know if you have any questions. If the internet's not your thing and you don't want to download it, just give us a call at the toll-free number on your screen and tell us to mail you the Annuities Made Easy and Mailbox Made Easy booklets. Really good stuff. All right, next question in the essence of time. Oh boy. We did a show several weeks ago. Aaron put that graphic up. I love this graphic. When cash is still king.
Oh yeah.
I had a gentleman come in yesterday, and I know for a fact, he probably felt funny. He told me this. He said, for some reason, back in October, I moved everything to cash. I was just nervous about the market. So now, as we record this show in May and the market's down, who knows by the time, when will this show be on, Aaron? Roughly July 3rd. I mean, the market could be back up. But I said, okay, all that money's sitting in cash. How do you feel now? What do you think he said, Wes?
Great.
He said, hadn't lost a penny. So what I'm seeing right now, folks, a lot of you are, I know it, I get it, you're getting 0.2% at the bank or 0.3%. Be real slow to start trying to disperse that money and throw it out there and all the, because we've run into this some, even with bonds. Wes, I think this would be a good time to explain to people, because we've always traditionally used short-term bonds as very liquid tools, as very safe tools, but we're seeing those aren't very good options anymore. So even if people are struggling, wondering why their bonds are going down in value and why you may want to leave some money just in the bank for now, explain what's going on with bonds.
Right, yeah. So when interest rates rise, existing bonds become worth less. Just for as a rudimentary example, let's say you've got a 5% bond paying you a 5% yield, and all of a sudden the new bonds are now paying 6%. Well, obviously, just think, people are going to not pay as much for the 5% bond anymore because they can get one now for 6%. So the value of those bonds go down. Just to kind of touch on duration, the longer the duration of bond is, the more it's going to be affected by rises in interest rates. So as advisors, and if you're talking to other people in the financial world, it's a key to have shorter term bonds at this point with rising interest rates.
Very good. And I think that's another thing too, folks. You're working with an advisor. If people decide to work with Tony Walker Financial, we've got so much experience in both arenas. I would say there's some really, really good money managers out there. I'm not saying that. But the money managers tend to be all about Wall Street. They don't, let's say, don't really even want to work in annuities. They don't even want to talk about them. I had a gentleman come in the other day, and I think his broker's offering an annuity by default because he's thinking about moving money to us. And the broker even said, I think I've done like 3 of these annuities. They just don't do them. But he's offering to do one because the guy's getting ready to move money. The second thing is, I think a lot of people just don't know annuities. So they do all the annuities, they do all the brokerage work. They either kind of be one size fits all, one or the other. So we folks are experienced in both investments. That would be our Charles Schwab platform. Again, Aaron, let's put up the split IRA. We're also very experienced in the annuity world. So if you're looking for something of both possibly, you may want to have some money in the market still, catch all those gains when they finally come back up, and they will. I mean, the market eventually will come back. We can do that for you. But if you're a saver and you don't want all of your money in the market or very little in the market, obviously we can help you with that too. So the split IRA may be exactly what you're looking for. All right, and speaking with that whole thing of getting money back and rolling it over and starting income, one of the misconceptions is, Trey, that when they move money over to our process, a lot of people think they got to wait a year or two to get money. Explain to people what happens once they roll money over to Tony Walker Financial, who they call to get the money, and how quickly and accessible we can get that money to them.
Right. The experience usually those folks have had is waiting on an 800 number for who knows how long to talk to somebody and go around the horn to figure out how to get money. When they move over and have accounts with Tony Walker Financial, whether it's with Charles Schwab, with these annuity custodians, they call us. They don't have to call each of the individual companies. So when it comes time to start taking distributions in retirement, they call us. They have one phone number they have to remember for the rest of their time as a client.
And then, Wes, your role in that is, we don't want to leave too much money sitting in cash unnecessarily unless we feel like the market conditions dictate it. But another service we provide is as people take monthly distributions, what do you do to make sure those accounts have plenty of cash to meet those distributions?
Yeah, so as those distribution requests come up, especially if they're a recurring distribution, we'll have to raise the cash in order to fulfill the distributions. And at the same time, we want to keep those accounts in balance with their original goals. So if they wanted to have a certain percentage in equities, a certain percentage in bonds, we don't want to deviate from that just to raise cash to send them distributions. So part of what we do is making sure that they not only stay in balance, but have access to the money for liquidity purposes like we're talking about now.
And so, folks, I think that's the difference between a money manager who's just trying to grow your money at all costs and a retirement planning specialist like us who brings all this together and tries to make sure we've got some semblance of what we're doing, how we're sending you the money, how much taxes you're going to owe. I mean, it's really holistic planning, if you want to call it that.
That's exactly right.
So, folks, here's what I would do right now in the essence of time. I got to get to the Bible segment. You guys are out of time. Sorry, we got to cover the Bible. But in the meantime, if you'd like to talk to myself or one of our trained fiduciaries, it's absolutely free. We call it the 10-minute free fiduciary phone call. All you got to do to take advantage of this is go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on the Let's Get Started, or of course, you can call the toll-free number on your screen. So what does the Bible have to say about questions? Well, last week we asked one of the most important questions ever. We're going to ask another question that comes from many people who are working with financial advisors and their relationship to God. Good stuff coming your way. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back.
Now remember, when you roll over your money to us from your 401k, you get a free 15% bonus.
Free money? That sounds too good to be true.
No, there's no catch.
So what are your fees?
No. Not fee, free.
What do you think?
I think we need a second opinion.
Don't leave your retirement to chance. Get a second opinion from TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
With the uncertainty of the stock market, our nation's debt spiraling out of control, and inflation running rampant, now may be the best time to consider moving your 401k to safer territory. My name is Tony Walker, and for over 38 years I've made it my life's mission to help savers worry less about money, and I want to help you too. To speak with me at no cost or obligation, why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or simply call the toll-free number on your screen. The theme of today's show is There Are No Stupid Questions. And as we approach our last segment of each episode of the Worry-Free Retirement, referred to as What the Bible Has to Say About Money, there's one funny question that sticks in my mind that comes to us from a competing financial advisor and what he discovered after scrolling around on our website at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Let me explain. Several years ago, a prospective client who was interviewing several advisors about handling his 401k plan came to see me to find out more about our services. After some quick chit-chat, he sheepishly asked if I was okay with him sharing something another advisor said about me, to which I replied, sure. He went on to say that several days prior to meeting me, he was at the bank where he does business and asked the teller if there was anyone at the bank he could speak to about rolling over his 401k, to which the nice teller responded by walking the gentleman down the hall to introduce him to the bank's investment advisor. Apparently, after a few quick pleasantries and talking about the bank's investment services, the prospect told the bank representative that he was talking to some other advisors and included my name as one of them, to which the bank advisor responded, never heard of him, and quickly turned to his computer and jumped on my website. With my prospective client sitting patiently as the bank rep scrolled through my website, apparently the rep must have stumbled across my statement of faith and resolutions that I refer to as the 10 resolutions. As he began to laugh and at the same time spun around in his chair, turned to the prospect asking, who does this guy think he is? The Jimmy Swaggart of finance? But it does beg the question, does the faith of the advisor you trust with your life savings really matter? Well, all I can tell you is this. After meeting in person with over 15,000 savers, after overseeing more than 5,000 written game plans, and in meeting in person with 20 to 30 people each week, one thing I've learned is that when it comes to God and money, this journey we call life is in the end not about the money, but about how we balance our life and ultimately how much faith we place in God. And assuming you agree with this line of thinking, it might be wise to inquire of your advisor or those who you are thinking about handing over your life savings to just exactly what it is they believe in besides money. In other words, is that advisor trusting in the ways of God or in the ways of the world, and ultimately, is he or she accountable to the efforts they're going to set forth to someone other than themselves? Well, in my humble opinion, if that advisor does not have a strong belief in God and feel as though his or her actions are held accountable to a higher power, then what's to keep that advisor from forgetting whose money this really is, if you know what I mean? You see, over the years, in counseling thousands of savers how to use and enjoy and protect their most valuable possessions, what I've come to realize that all of your most valuable possessions, whether it's your home, your 401k, and yes, even your loved ones, are really not your most valuable possession. You see, I've found that the most valuable possession any of us has is our faith in God. And that's it. And the reason I share this brief segment each and every week with what the Bible has to say about your money is not to make others think that I've got it figured out, which I don't, but rather to remind my viewers that I too am human and that without God, this whole notion of money and what to do with it becomes pretty trivial indeed, or as the writer of Ecclesiastes accurately predicted in 10:19, that money will become the answer for everything. Which is sad to believe, but it's true, and that's what we're living with today, a way of life that I refuse to get caught up in. So know this, if you choose to contact me to discuss your situation, you won't have someone that is going to try to get your money at all costs. That's because I don't need your money to exist. I don't have to cheat, share half-truths, or leave out important details you need to know so that I can just get your money. For now anyway, I've got plenty of money, and even one day if I lose it all, I know that the same God who was with me years ago when I didn't have a pot to tinkle in is the same God who is with me today at a time in my life where I have more pots to tinkle in than I probably know what to do with. This God who knows and cares for me, whether you've got a lot of money or whether you don't, is the God that wants to possess you. And that, my friend, is some good news that you and I can take to the bank. So what about you right now? Do you have someone in your corner you can trust with your money? Someone who has over 38 years of working with thousands of savers just like you? Someone who does understand the trials and tribulations of money that will surely come your way? And yes, you're not afraid to ask what you think are stupid questions of? Well, let me do this. Let me invite you right now to go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. And while there, simply click on the Let's Get Started button. And your information will be confidentially sent to our offices, and we will follow up with a free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, or simply call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. We look forward to seeing you next week, but you remember, between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.